This is a revelation from the Lord according to the Mormon Church. In Doctrine and Covenants, section 132, it says, revelation given through Joseph Smith, the prophet at Nauvoo, Illinois, recorded July 12, 1843, relating to the new and everlasting covenant, including the eternity of the marriage covenant and the principle of plural marriage. Although the revelation was recorded in 1843, evidence indicates that some of the principles involved in this revelation were known by the prophet as soon as 1831. So this is clearly a revelation from the church, which they affirm because it's in the Doctrine and Covenants, part of their scriptures. So that's what I want us to see there. And we're going to continue on and see that indeed Joseph Smith did speak falsely in the Lord's name. Specifically, we're going to look at Doctrine and Covenant 132, verses 32 through 36, and it says in verse 32, it says, go ye therefore, and do the works of Abraham, enter ye into the law, and ye shall be saved. But if ye do not enter into the law, you cannot receive the promise of the Father which he made unto Abraham. And notice the verse 34, God commanded Abraham, and Sarah gave Hagar to Abraham to wife. And why did she do it? Because this was the law, and from Hagar sprang many people. This therefore was fulfilling among other things the promises. Was Abraham therefore under condemnation? Verily I say unto you, nay, for I the Lord commanded it. Abraham was commanded to offer his son Isaac. Nevertheless it was written, thou shalt not kill. Abraham however did not refuse, and it was accounted to him unto righteousness. Did you notice what the verse 34 says? God commanded Abraham, and Sarah gave Hagar to Abraham to wife. So the idea here is that God commanded Abraham to tell Sarah to give Hagar as his wife. But that's not what we find when we consult the biblical text, because God is not actually involved in this at all. We can see in Genesis 16, 1-5, it says, Abram's wife Sarah had not borne any children for her, but she owned an Egyptian slave named Hagar. Sarai said to Abram, since the Lord has prevented me from bearing children, go to my slave, perhaps through her I can build a family. And Abram agreed to what Sarah had said. So Abram's wife Sarai took Hagar, her Egyptian slave, and gave her to her husband Abram as a wife for him. This happened after Abram had lived in the land of Canaan for 10 years. He slept with Hagar, and she became pregnant. When she saw that she was pregnant, her mistress became contemptible to her. Then Sarai said to Abram, you are responsible for my suffering. I put my slave in your arms. And when she saw that she was pregnant, I became contemptible to her. May the Lord judge between me and you. So here we can clearly see the idea to give Hagar to Abraham was Sarah's idea, not the Lord. The Lord had nothing to be involved in this fiasco. And yet we can even see in verse 5, it says, Then Sarai said to Abram, you are responsible for my suffering. Notice that I put my slave in your arms, and when she saw that she was pregnant, I became contemptible to her. So Sarah clearly takes responsibility for this idea. And for Joseph Smith to say that the Lord commanded Hagar and Abraham to get together is ridiculous. And it shows that Joseph Smith did not hear from God, and therefore he is a false prophet. But with that being said, I want to show you that the Lord does indeed keep his promises whenever he has provided something and says he will do something. He does actually follow through with it. We can see in Genesis chapter 21, verse 1-5, it says, the Lord came to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age at the appointed time that God had told him. Abraham named his son who was born to him, the one who Sarah bore to him, Isaac. When his son Isaac was 8 years old, Abraham circumcised him as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. So we can see the difference that the difference the command of God actually has on an individual's life. Whenever things happen and they're not commanded, the fiasco takes place. And like I said, for Joseph Smith to claim that the Lord commanded that Abraham and Hagar to get together is completely false and ridiculous, and yet for some reason Mormons consider him to be a prophet whenever he has clearly put words in the Lord's mouth. And it's a very good thing that Joseph Smith lived on this side of the cross and not in the Old Testament, specifically because if he lived during the time of Moses, he would be put to death as a false prophet. We can see in Deuteronomy 18:20-22, it says, But the prophet who presumes to speak a message in my name that I have not commanded him, which Joseph Smith clearly did on numerous occasions, and this is just one more to add to the list. It says, who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet must die. You may say to yourself, how can we recognize a message that the Lord has not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the Lord's name and the message does not come true or is not fulfilled, that is a message the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Do not be afraid of him. So clearly we can see that this text condemns Joseph Smith as a false prophet, and he should be disregarded as a fraud and a charlatan.